everybody, thank you for clicking my channel. My name is Moitinya. So today I'm going to be having a very personal conversation with my sisters, and it's going to be about female genital mutilation. And if you don't know what that is, female genital mutilation is a partial or total removal of a female's genitalia. And there are different types of it, which is what we're going to be discussing, as well as talking about our own personal experiences as women who have been circumcised. My reason for doing this is I'm very happy about Sudan. They have outlawed female genital mutilation in that country, and I felt like that is a great way for me and my siblings to talk about the experience of it and what it's really like to not have a clitoris and the reality of it. So stay tuned for great conversation. Hello everybody, thank you for clicking my channel. My name is Moitinya and I am a visual storyteller. Hello guys, so joining me in conversation today are Abioyuwa Ugiagbe Agumbiade. She's an entrepreneur, also a mom and a wife. Egosa Nosa, she is a student and an aspiring stylist. And last but not least, we have Joy, the ultimate, fabulous, beautiful photographer. So thank you ladies for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
I want to thank you guys for taking the opportunity to sit down with me to have this very intimate conversation. Growing up, sex was not something that was talked about, so we had to figure it out on our own. Having a conversation about vagina is not an everyday talk for women, and so the fact that you've taken your time to have such an intimate, personal conversation with me, I am extremely grateful and thankful to you guys. And I just want to open it up to understanding that being vulnerable is how you create a very powerful message.
Yes.
And so everything that we're going to be discussing today is going to be on a personal level, but also understand that there are people watching this, and what's the message do you want to come across or share to these people watching? Okay, so let's begin with our first question. Tell me where you were, if you can remember, or how you heard about female genital mutilation.
I think I heard about it through Joy, when they gave birth to Joy, you know. And I think at that time you do the math, I can't do the math right now, so around 9, 10. I think that's when I kind of noticed a woman, you know, came to the house to do some procedure on her, but I didn't know what exactly that is.
Yeah.
So I think at the age of 10, that's when I first heard about, you know, circumcision, the circumcised babies, or I think age 10.
I think for me, it was from you, and yeah, I think you were the one that actually told me about FGM. And I'll go back to ABS. I remember when Joy was circumcised, but I didn't know what that was. I think it was 2 women that came to the compound, and all I remember was a pile of blood and a bathtub that was being, you know, thrown away. Yeah. But I was 6 years old at that time, so I didn't know what exactly that was, but I heard it from you.
And for me, I heard it from my Moitinya as well, but it was just more of like a whisper, like I was hearing it here and there, but I didn't know exactly what that was until I went to a gynecologist on 96th Street. And yeah, and they told me that, hey, you don't have this, you don't have that, and I was so confused as to what exactly it was. And I went home and I did my research. I spoke to my I remember speaking to my health teacher, Miss Ortiz, back then, and like, you know, just having her explain to me what a vagina is and how that looks, and you know, I kind of took that upon myself, like, okay, the things that I was missing, and I was like, oh shoot, like, yeah.
So what did they tell you were missing?
So for me, wow, it gets more real when you actually have to say it out loud. So for me, I personally don't have a clitoris, and I also don't have a lip, like lips, like JJ. Yeah.
For me, it was at the back of a car, and my mentor at the time was talking to us about sex. And you know, when you become responsible having sex, these are the things that were expected, these are the things that you must do. And one of the things she mentioned was a clitoris.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know anything about that before that, prior to meeting her, prior to that conversation. And then she goes, in Africa they circumcise people, you should go check to make sure that you weren't circumcised. Mm-hmm. And so I went home, and I mean, I still think about that question today. It's bizarre because you shower every day, you know what you have and what you don't have. So, but when she mentioned it, I had to go back home and check. And so when I checked, I was like, well,
what exactly do you mean? Even next day I went back to her, I said, what exactly are you talking about? Where is this supposed to be? And she printed out that image of vagina and she showed it to me, and because I'm visually impaired, I couldn't figure out the shape of it. Only years later when I got stronger glasses, I was able to really look at the picture and figure out what was missing. But at that time, I wasn't able to see it. And then later she goes, and then later on, I guess based on her description, I realized that I was circumcised. And it, of course, devastated me, which leads me to my second question. Like, how did you guys feel when you found out you were circumcised?
I didn't see anything wrong with it, and I feel like vagina itself is not something I don't have conversation with my friends about it. I just feel like I was fine, and I think at that time, sexually, when I meet guys, they don't talk about it. They don't feel like there's anything off with how I look. So to me, I didn't have any.
That was something that was brought up.
It wasn't brought up. But when I found out I was circumcised, I was pissed. I'm like, I was really upset about it. I was really upset. But at the same time, I had no control. It was, it was done.
I was upset because my parents they didn't give me the right to choose what I want. They were the one that made the decision for me. They didn't allow me to say, okay, they should cut it or they shouldn't. So when I found out, I was very upset. I was really, really upset, and sometimes I would feel upset too. So today, that I don't think it's fair that my parents made the decision to do this.
For me, I felt betrayed by my parents, just simply at the fact that they did not have a conversation with me after, them doing it. I mean, becoming a woman, you start to question yourself and like the things you like and don't like, and so like that conversation was never there. And so when I found out I was alone, I was by myself. I remember leaving 96th Street on the train, I was crying. I looked like a mad woman, but it's like, internally I was devastated, and I was shocked, and yeah, till today it really still affects me. Yeah.
So it affects you what way?
In one way, like I felt like I'm missing in terms of like my sexual. Oh, sorry, every time I say it out loud. In terms of like my sexual life, I feel like I don't have, like, just having friends who do have it. You understand? Like the conversation is different. They'll be like, oh yeah, we did this and did that, and I'm just there like, yeah, like that's not what happens for me. That's like I can't relate with that. Yeah, I have to find other ways to pleasure myself, whereas like for them it's so much more easier. For me it's more of like a mental thing. Well, like, you understand, like it's just the dynamic is different, and so I always feel like I'm always missing on something.
Just your parents not having a conversation with you at a more matured age, I think that's the part that even got me even more upset.
I think for me it's more so the age of when you get your period, because that's when you start to clean yourself more. So I feel like that's where the conversation needs to be brought up. Like, okay, this is your vagina. I know while you're cleaning it and doing like you probably are like seeing that certain things are not as it seems. Well, this is what it is. When you were younger, like the conversation would make you feel more better than for you to figure it out yourself. And then when you do confront them, it's like the entitlements of, well, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
like,
or,
they don't understand the emotional side to it. And I think that's where the whole anger or the whole frustration comes in for me.
So I'll answer my question and then I'll lead on to the next question. When I first found out, I was very angry. And when I confronted mommy about it, she felt I shouldn't have known. Why did I find out? Who told me? I think on a traditional level, it's like, we talk about parenting, and I don't have children yet, but when parents give their all to a child, they give you what they never had. They give you their best. So when it comes to tradition, what they gave us is their best.
Right.
So it's up to us to figure out if that's something we want to continue. Right. Now, I wanna move on to the next conversation though. Have you ever had a conversation with your friend? You mentioned that, so I'll go with you, Joy. You mentioned having a conversation with your friend about sex, right? And the different dynamics. I want you to just talk briefly about that. What do you feel as though you're missing? If you can be just very specific.
I mean, like just being able, sorry.
Joy, chill.
Alright, just being able to, like in terms of just like touching yourself, like, they have like the different techniques of DJing, and things. Sorry, is that too much?
Is that too much? Let me know. How real should I be?
Should I have a filter? Because I can also have a filter.
No, keep it real.
It's a vagina thing.
Alright,
So
so
go ahead.
yeah, so in terms of just like even like the way you pleasure yourself, like and things like that, like I don't have a motivation to do that because I don't. I'm like it is like there's nothing there. So what am I actually doing? So that's where the conversation with my friends are like, and what their experience is, being able to pleasure themselves and how easy that comes, and like, you know, and while for me, I don't, in terms of even having the urge to want to have sex sometimes, I don't have it. I can go months without thinking of doing anything, you know, and for them it's more of like they can have the same, but it's more, I don't know, it's like a consistent, like they have urge, they have their urge is more than mine. Like mine could, it's like dry. It could be really dry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about this all the time.
Yeah.
And I know that you mentioned one of our friends when we were growing up.
Yes.
And then your own understanding of what you're looking at your vagina and thinking, say, your vagina
was actually
was perfect and
perfect.
hers wasn't. I want you to just describe that a little bit.
Okay, so this
What's
was
that?
this was back in Nigeria, Lagos, and I believe I was 6 years old, and this friend of mine, we were, you know, easing ourselves, and I noticed something in her vagina, and I was looking at mine. I'm like, oh, okay, well, hers is quite different from mine, and I'm here like, oh, mine is perfect. Mine is, you know, it's better than hers. I didn't know that actually I'm the one with the abnormal vagina. Now I know that, you know, but growing up I didn't know. For me, when it comes to having conversation with my girlfriends, I have had this conversation with my girlfriends, and I think when it comes to sex, the fact that I cannot have orgasm is what it's a little bit frustrating, you know, not being able to have that. And I have a couple of my girlfriends who tell me, oh my gosh, Ahosa, I'm in cloud 10, and I'm like, oh my god, I want to be in cloud 10 too, like, dang, you know. And I'm always like, okay. And other things when it comes to sex, I, like Joy said, you know, masturbation, I don't do that. I don't get any pleasure, and even in my times of experiencing and getting to know myself as a woman and my body, I try to masturbate, and I was just like, okay, yeah, this is so not working. This is not me at all.
So physical pleasure for us, right? In some parts of Africa, clitoris is a must, and then in other parts of Africa, clitoris isn't, right? So the parts of Africa where clitoris is a must, if 3 days before a woman gets married, or her clitoris has to be stretched out. And they do this because during intercourse, when the clitoris and the penis meet each other, there's a sensation that happens for both men and women. So if the clitoris isn't stretched out, that woman, they return her back to the family, just like you return sheep or goats. So they have to take her, go back to the family and have the clitoris stretched out.
Oh wow.
So for us as women, we don't experience that. However, they do say that during sex, there is a certain angle or penetration, a certain way that a man would do it that would allow a woman to fully enjoy the experience. And I just want you guys to speak on that. Is that true? Or do you feel as though it doesn't really happen like that, or it's a different case? You know, it doesn't matter if you have a clitoris or not.
I think it all depends on the partner. For me, it all depends on the person that I'm having sex with. If the person is well experienced, then yes, I will feel something. I will enjoy it. Okay, so normal person that have clitoris, they will probably feel sex 90%. Me not having clitoris, I would say I feel sex maybe 60% of it. So again, it all depends on the person that I'm having sex with. If the person is well experienced, then I do enjoy it. But again, I would never have an orgasm. So the guy will enjoy himself, and I would just be like, okay, are you done? All right, okay.
To me, I feel like the clitoris holds a lot of power, you know, for us women, and I feel like just that being taken away from us it's almost like a violation of our rights.
Absolutely.
You understand? But when it comes to sex, if you don't understand your own body, you don't understand your own self, you wouldn't even know everything I just mentioned. You wouldn't even know that exists. And also, it takes an experienced man. It takes a man that understands the female body very well to be able to get you to where you want to go.
Absolutely.
You understand? Because growing up as a child, when I started having sex, I didn't know. To me, I feel like you finish, I go back my business. I didn't understand the pleasure side of it, and the reason why I didn't understand the pleasure side of it was because them circumcising us, them taking that right to feel I don't even that pleasure, the physical pleasure. That was the aim. That was the main aim. That's the reason why they did the whole circumcision stuff. So you don't feel the urge. So you don't go from men to men. And so they did that just to take away that power from us as women. At this stage in my life, I don't see it more as a big deal now, because I know that there are people out there, that there are men out there that can really satisfy my urge or my pleasure. You understand what I'm saying? However, the only problem I have is the fact that me as a person, not every woman masturbates. But what happened if I want to masturbate? Not being able to do that on my own, to me, it's where I get frustrated. You understand? Because everything is completely gone. So it takes somebody else to get you to where you want to go. And to me, I just didn't like that. You understand? I feel like that's where the anger comes from. But over time, with maturity, I don't really see it much as a big deal as I get older now, because I know that, okay, at least, you know, there are men out there that can satisfy.
But then it takes an experienced man to be able to,
not anybody to get you there.
Absolutely.
So the next question is, we're going to move down into tradition, you know, and then one of the many reasons, and I may not have mentioned this before, is that you are having your second child, and your second baby child is a girl. So that is exciting for us as women, because I know that when we first talked about this in our early 20s, we talked about what we would do and what we wouldn't pass on to our children. So as I mentioned to you, mommy and daddy passed on what they thought is right to us. And when I even approached mommy on the conversation, if you ask mommy today whether she will circumcise her daughter, she will still do it. Because the thing is, to go against traditional practices, to go against your culture, to go against what you've been groomed in, it's like going against your soul. So for you to detach yourself from your soul, it's almost like you have to refine yourself over again. That is not an easy journey to do. So as we are, you know, we want children, and the chance of us having girl is there. So for you, I want you to talk to me, or to talk to us about your conversation with daddy about circumcising us.
Okay, I think this whole conversation happened a couple of years ago. I traveled with my parents to Dallas for a wedding. So we were sitting at a dining table, having breakfast, and I think at that time, Ege was mentioning, she was talking to me about Joy's vagina being weird, and she's basically saying that they did her circumcision wrong. Everybody else, all three of us, you know, they circumcised us well, but Joy is off. So with that, me having that conversation with Ege, I was really upset, and I'm like, okay, we haven't confronted this issue with our parents, and I'm like, somebody has to do it. So that day I just summoned courage and just asked my dad the question. I'm like, okay, daddy, I know this is a little bit off, but I just want to know, why did you circumcise us? And he was shocked. My mom was sitting on the right, he was on the left, I was in the middle of the two of them. I'm like, we need to have this conversation because it's very vital. And the first thing my dad said was, which kind of question now?
Kind of question,
you know, what kind of question is that? And I said, Daddy, I want to know, because I felt like, you know, Joy's body is a little bit off, and then I didn't even know much. I was just going off of what Ege was telling me, and you can tell I was really angry, you know, because I understand he did it to me, did it to you, did it to Ege, and now Joy, and now she can't be, you know, she can't be a woman and she can't enjoy herself. So all that anger was just building up on me. And also at that time, having sex was a struggle, you know, because you don't enjoy it. Like I have friends that talk about sex, but after a while, like, they fantasize the whole thing. I'm like, this kind of babe, like, oh, she come on at the meat, you know, all that. That was my mindset then. It's still not mature. So then I had a conversation with Daddy, and Daddy said, we had to circumcise you now because this was what was going on at that time. Every woman in our family needs to be circumcised. And I did the circumcision to you guys, so that way you guys can be like your mom. You don't see your mama. If I leave your mom with you and travel abroad, your mom doesn't run after men. Your mom is modest. Your mom is, you know, she sticks to herself. So if we didn't circumcise you guys will be all over the place, jumping from man to man, you know. Basically talking, you probably like a slut, act like a slut, basically. That's what he meant.
Right.
So, but I said to him, but Daddy, but that has nothing to do with who we are as a person. That conversation was kind of going, you could tell we're bumping head. But I just kind of let them slide. I'm like, this man, man, you mess things up. Anyway, but that was how that conversation went. But leaving that table on that day, I said to myself, if I do have a child, it will never happen. I feel like a clitoris or a woman is their power. It's what defines a woman. It's who they are as a person. And having to take that right away from them, it's just like you're taking their soul away. Let me experience it. I think it's a beautiful thing. If it's not a beautiful thing, then it wouldn't have been there. You know. So now that I'm becoming a mom, that's the one. It's funny enough. I also had the same conversation with my mom a couple of days ago about when my daughter comes to this world in a few days. And the first conversation was like, oh, when you leave the hospital, make sure they check her tongue, make sure they cut her clitoris. And I said, mommy, for clitoris that they cut. For America. I said, mom, they don't cut anything here. I'm like, we can't have that. She's like, okay, no problem. Once the baby just come, open her leg, you can use your hand to cut the middle of her, whatever, just in case anything joined. And I was angry. I'm like, mommy, what do you mean? You can't do that. I just told her, I said, mommy, it's no verse. They know they cut anything from my bikini. She will come out perfect. You know, and that's how the conversation went. But however, there's a side to being circumcised that I, as a person, I appreciate. And I appreciate the fact that...
I want to hear this side.
I appreciate the fact that when Joy did mention about girls going crazy and, you know, there's some girls that when they masturbate, they want to have sex with different dude and jump from this guy to that guy to this guy. I don't experience it. If you don't come to me, I don't have any desire to go to you. I feel to me it kind of make me sink me in.
So it grounds you.
It grounds me. Okay, so that's what I'm saying with our own parents. I feel like maybe that's where I don't know.
Yeah, so you're saying maybe that's where they're trying to go at. So if you feel that way, whatever it is they were trying to accomplish, they accomplished it because that was the whole goal of it. So there's several parts of clitoris. The myth about why it's being cut, and the first one and the one that gets me all angry is to keep a woman modest. The second which was the conversation I had with mommy, was that if a woman is giving birth to a male child and the head of the clitoris touches the head of the male child, the baby boy will die. So when she told me that, I said, how many boys do they have in America? How come we don't have like death rate of male child? Like you don't have male child dying. I said, mommy, to be honest with you, if you really understand the power of a clitoris, you will go find where they throw your own and put it back in. Like I didn't say it like that, but basically if you understand what it does, you would go and look for it and then have it back. And when I was looking for like ways to like regain my own clitoris, you know, they told me several things like you can cut your nipples and put it down there. I'm like, okay, that's just, it's making situation worse. So who wants to have a blanket nipple? Nobody wants that. So
how hard? Cut your nipple.
Why? Because the sensation you get from this is gynecologist. No, I'm serious.
Yeah. Once you cut it, it's not sensitive anymore.
No, it still has nerve. You know, and then obviously if you know they walk, they know what they suggest that to me.
Right.
But they said you can put the nipple between your legs. But I keep thinking like I'm already mutilated. So if you keep mutilating my whole body, that ain't gonna work. So we just gotta go with the flow as to what we have. Now my final question, and I wanna go around. Now we talked about promiscuous, and we talked about that's one of the reasons why women are circumcised. Obviously, you're expecting your daughter in a few days. Saying all the things you said, you mentioned about Joy's friends and the experiences and how it makes you panic in a sense that not having clitoris make you reserved. Do you feel as though that your daughter not circumcising your daughter would make her sexually crazy? If I can use the term here, do you think it would make her promiscuous? Are you afraid that if you don't do it, that could be what her outcome would be? And if that's her outcome, are you worried about that as a mom? And I want to go around, and we don't have children, but
I think for me, I wouldn't want my child or my daughter to be circumcised. I think that it's her right to enjoy sex. It's a beautiful thing. Sex is, I think she should enjoy it.
And for me, I would say, I wouldn't touch my daughter. You know, if she wasn't meant to have it, she won't get that. And if there's not if there isn't any health problems along with it, like health risks, then why should I be the one to tell you what should be on your body it doesn't sound right to me, does not feel right. When I didn't like the way it was done to me, you know, and I would not do it. I want it to be, if it's a choice, I want it to come to where if she wants to get it
It's
done,
up to her.
it's up to her. But I
Yeah.
don't even think she would. I mean, why would anyone want to really do that? Especially if you're educated, because it does not connect to who you are as a person, whether you have your clitoris or not. If you want to be promiscuous, you are promiscuous with or without a clitoris.
I agree.
And that's how it is. It's more so of like how you're raised, or, you know, rather than, you know, you have a clitoris and this is what it is. Like, there's so many people with clitoris.
And they're not promiscuous.
And they're not promiscuous.
And there's so many people that don't have clitoris
that are promiscuous. And that's the
So-
crazy thing too, because that's how you have people who are like back in you know, back home, you have people who are actually circumcised and they think less of themselves and make them want to sell their body even more because of it. Like, so it's more of a logical, like, mental way of, like, yeah. But I would not. That's none of my business.
Well, as for me, I definitely would not circumcise my daughter, and I feel like her being circumcised, I mean not circumcised, does not shape who she is as a woman, and as a person that has been there, done that. I don't think her vagina shape who she is. I feel like it's the things that I instilled in her is what will make her who she's going to be in the future. In her environment, and having great aunties like you know. So and I think circumcision is something I'm also going to talk about both to my son now and also to her. So she's clearly aware of it. You know, she's also clearly aware of her body as a person, knowing that she owns her body and she has the right to decide what she wants to do with it. However, it has to be in a matured age though. You can't be 16 in my house and be running after a different dude because you're uncircumcised. No, we're not having that. So it has to be at certain mature levels to dive in, because definitely, like they mentioned, sex is a beautiful thing. But taking what is rightful mine away from me is just what I feel is really unacceptable. So I won't be practicing that moving forward. Now, yeah, you go die.
That's a great one. With our parents, right? I don't think that we should also blame them for this, because again, it's tradition. They didn't know. It was something that was passed on to them. So as much as they were trying to shield us from, you know, from things that they feel like it may be too dangerous for us, at the same time they don't know any better. So we, now that we know better, moving forward, our generation, we wouldn't do that.
And I was going to say, like, circumcision is it's as old as Africa. Like, nobody knows how it started. Nobody knows what part of Africa. It's practiced in Middle East, it's practiced in some parts of Africa, and it's practiced in Asia. As of right now, there are countries that have banned it, but people still practice it because it's like tradition. To be able to have the power and the ability to think for yourself, that is a threat to mankind, honestly. And so circumcision, I feel, in my opinion, is a way of holding a woman hostage as to what she should do and should not do with her sexuality. And that is nobody's business, because I always say in Genesis, I don't know what part of Genesis this is, but God told Abraham, go and circumcise yourself, and the man did.
You know, tell Sarah.
You don't tell Sarah anything. Sarah still has a clitoris. Like Abraham got to cut that stuff up. So now I don't know where in the world that came about. Like, who's to decide and look at the anatomy of a woman and say that doesn't belong there. And the thing that gets me angry is that women are the ones who cut it, not the men. So it is done with a broken glass. It is done with blades. It is done with a sharp stone where it gets sharp edge. It is done with all that. And so, but it is not done without the permission of a man though. And in some part of Africa, over 90% of the women are circumcised. If you are not circumcised, you will find husband. So when a marriage becomes the identity of a culture, then you have to make sure so your pikin gets cut, because if she's not cut, she will get married. And to a lot of Africans, that's like going to hell, because husband is a priority for most of us. You know what I mean? So we don't blame our parents, and that is not what my video is about. We understand our culture and our tradition, and parts of traditions are beautiful, but I will close with this. Any traditional practices that violates the rights of women should be banned. And female genital mutilation is one of them. So ladies, I want to thank you all for sitting down with me and having this chat. I do hope we get to do this again.
Yes.
And yes, congrats. That's it.
It's alright.
According to the World Health Organization, more than 2 million girls and women worldwide have been circumcised, while 3 million girls are at risk every day. Female genital mutilation is done on girls between infancy and 15 years of age. Type 1 is the partial or total removal of the clitoris gland. This is the sensitive part of the female genitals. Type 2 is the partial or total removal of the clitoris gland and the labia minora. Type 3, which is also called the infibulation, it involved the narrowing of the vagina through the creation of covering seal. This seal is formed by sewing or stitching the outer labia with or without the removal of the clitoris or inner labia. Type 4 is all other harmful procedures including pricking, incising, and piercing the genital area. While I applaud Sudan for outlawing the barbaric practice, my conversation with my sisters revealed to me that education must and should be the next step for the country. So I urge activists and community leaders to continue to inform the danger of the harmful practice to both young and old. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the notification bell to be the first to receive any new content. Thank you again for watching. See you next time.